March 10th, 1943. North Atlantic. West of Ireland, the sea is iron dark, heaving in long, exhausted swells. Inside U-boat U-221, Kapitän Lieutenant Hans Hartwig Treuer grips the ladder rail as the boat rises toward periscope depth. Diesel fumes cling to the air. Men whisper without meaning to, somewhere above. The convoy is there. You can feel it more than hear it. A vibration through steel and bone. Treuer raises the periscope inch by inch. The Atlantic opens in a narrow circle of glass. Gray sky, white caps. Then, there, cargo ships. Fat and slow, marching eastward in columns. He counts quickly. 20, 25. Escorted. Yes, but thinly. A destroyer pacing the flank. A corvette astern. Not enough. Alarmtauchen beenden. Angriff vorbereiten. End dive alarm. Prepare to attack. Below, the torpedo men move with ritual precision. Gyro spun. Pistols armed. This is the war, as the U-boat arm understands it. A calculated hunt in a vast ocean where the hunter has learned every trick of silence and shadow. Treuer knows the numbers. He has heard them from BDU headquarters in Paris. January and February have been spectacular. Allied shipping losses are staggering. Some nights, the radio crackles with victory reports until dawn. For Admiral Karl Dönitz, this is the moment he has waited for since 1939. The Atlantic is his battlefield, and his submarines, nearly 400 operational boats, are finally winning it. On March 10th alone, German U-boats will sink more than 40 Allied ships. To men like Treuer, it feels inevitable. Far from the rolling deck plates of U-221, Dönitz stands in the war room beneath the Hotel Majestic in Paris, headquarters of the U-boat command. Charts cover the walls, convoy routes traced in grease pencil, patrol lines marked with flags. The Admiral's uniform is immaculate. His expression is not, "Der Feind blutet," one officer says quietly. "The enemy is bleeding." Dönitz nods, but his eyes linger on a different chart. A thin red line marks the air gap, the last stretch of ocean beyond Allied land-based air cover. For months, it has been the killing ground. U-boats surface at night, recharge batteries, stalk convoys at will. But something is changing. Loss reports arrive alongside victory claims. Not many, not yet alarming. A boat missing here, another there. Dönitz tells himself it is the cost of doing business. The Atlantic has always demanded payment. Still, there are rumors. Captains returning from patrol speak of escorts that find them too quickly, of radar contacts that should not be possible, of aircraft appearing out of darkness and cloud, dropping flares with uncanny precision. Dönitz dismisses most of it. British propaganda, he tells himself. Luck, coincidence. The wolf packs are still feeding. Back aboard U-221, Treuer fires his spread. The boat shudders as torpedoes leave the tubes, racing toward their targets. Seconds stretch. Then, two distant detonations. Columns of smoke claw skyward. Cheers erupt. Quickly stifled. Ruder hart Steuerbord. Tiefe halten. Hard rudder starboard. Hold depth. The escorts are reacting faster than expected. Hydrophone Operator Obergefreiter Karl Meyer Stiffens. Schraubengeräusche. Schnell. Direkt auf uns. Propeller noises. Fast. Coming straight at us. Depth charges follow. Closer than Treuer likes. The first explodes with a metallic hammer blow. Lights flickering. The second is worse. Tools crash from racks. A pipe joint bursts. Spraying water. Treuer clenches his jaw. Ruhe. Sie haben uns noch nicht. Calm. They don't have us yet. But deep down, a thought worms its way in. How did they find us so quickly? Above the waves, the war is no longer being fought blindly. On an escort destroyer, decisively, a young radar officer watches a green pulse bloom on his screen. The contact is fleeting, but real. Not the long-wave radar the Germans expect. This is something new. Centimeter radar, sharp and precise, able to spot a periscope head or a conning tower slicing through night seas. Contact bearing 095. He calls out. Range 3,000 yards. The captain does not hesitate. By mid-March 1943, the Atlantic is saturated with invisible threads. HFDF, high-frequency direction finding, known to the Allies as Huff-Duff. Every U-boat transmission, every triumphant report, becomes a beacon. Wolfpack coordination, once the Germans' greatest strength, is quietly turning into a liability. The men inside the U-boats cannot see this web tightening. They only feel its effects. Trojer survives the attack. U-221 limps away, battered but afloat. When the boat returns to France weeks later, the mood on the dock is different. Too many empty berths, too many black-edged notices. Trojer files his patrol report. He chooses his words carefully. Enemy reaction time unusually rapid. He writes, detection suspected prior to visual contact. At BDU, the report joins dozens of others. The pattern is forming. The ocean that once belonged to the hunters is beginning to turn against them. April 4th, 1943. Bay of Biscay. Off the French coast, dawn breaks in streaks of red and gray as U-boat U-338 surfaces to recharge her batteries. Kapitän Leutnant Manfred Kinzel stands on the bridge, binoculars pressed to his eyes, scanning a horizon that looks deceptively empty. The Biscay has always been dangerous. Air patrols thick, weather unpredictable, but this far from the convoy lanes, it should be manageable. Below decks, the diesels roar to life. The boat vibrates, alive again after hours submerged. Then the lookout shouts, Flugzeug, Steuerbord. Kinzel swings around just as a dark shape drops out of the clouds. A Royal Air Force B-24 Liberator, its wings wide, ungainly, and deadly. There is no warning, no long approach. One moment the sky is empty, the next, it is filled with engine thunder. Alarm. Tauchen. The crew scrambles, but it is already too late. The Liberator releases a string of weapons that hit the water in a neat, terrifying line, depth charges, new ones, calibrated to explode shallow and fast. The sea erupts around U-338. The conning tower slams shut as the boat plunges, but the shock waves chase her down. Lights shatter, gauges spin wildly. A crack opens along a weld seam, water spraying in under pressure. Kinzel is thrown against the bulkhead, somewhere forward. A man screams, "This is not bad luck. This is precision." Across the Atlantic, in a quiet operations room in Liverpool, Allied officers track the aftermath of such encounters with clinical efficiency. The Biscay patrols are no longer guesswork. Aircraft now carry lee lights, powerful search lamps slung beneath their fuselages. When radar picks up a surfaced U-boat at night, the light snaps on at the last second. Blinding, inescapable. German captains never see it coming. Back in Paris, Admiral Dönitz reads the Biscay loss reports in silence. April has begun badly. Boats are being destroyed not only near convoys, but en route to their patrol areas before they ever fire a torpedo. His staff briefs him on new Allied measures. Escort groups that do not abandon convoys after an attack. Aircraft operating far beyond expected range. Reports of something called an escort carrier. Small, slow ships launching fighters and patrol bombers in mid-ocean. Improvisations. Dönitz mutters. They cannot build enough, but the numbers disagree. April 18th, 1943. Mid-Atlantic. Convoy HX-233. Inside U-boat U-175. Kapitän Leutnant Heinrich Bruns listens as the hydrophone operator tracks multiple escorts. The convoy is well guarded, but BDU has ordered the attack. There are other boats nearby. A coordinated strike will overwhelm the defenses. Bruns transmits a short report, barely a minute long. Unbeknownst to him, 3 Allied HFDF stations, one in Iceland, one in Northern Ireland, one aboard an escort ship, take bearings. Lines intersect. A position is fixed. Within hours, the convoy alters course. Escorts spread out. Hunting. Depth charges rain down with methodical brutality. Then something worse. A new weapon. Fired from ahead of the ship, not dropped behind. Hedgehog. The explosions do not echo unless they hit. When they do, they tear steel apart. U-175 is struck amidships. The boat loses buoyancy instantly. Bruns orders abandon ship. But icy Atlantic water floods in faster than men can escape. The submarine slips beneath the waves, taking most of her crew with her. The escorts do not linger. There are more contacts to chase. By late April, the pattern is undeniable. U-boats that attack are found. U-boats that transmit are found. U-boats that surface, even briefly, are found. The Atlantic has become transparent. Dönitz convenes his senior commanders. The tone is grim. We are facing a technological revolution. One officer admits, their radar operates on wavelengths our detectors cannot see. Centimeter radar, shortwave, invisible to German warning receivers. Dönitz slams his fist on the table. Then we adapt. We always have. New orders go out. Reduce radio traffic. Attack only under optimal conditions. Withdraw from heavily defended convoys. But the ocean does not pause while doctrine catches up. May 5th, 1943, North Atlantic. Kapitänleutnant Peter Erich Kremer, one of Germany's most experienced aces, peers through his periscope aboard U-333. He has seen this war change before. He has survived rammings, air attacks, mechanical failures. Now, he sees something he has never seen before. An aircraft carrier, small, squat, unmistakable, sailing with the convoy. An escort carrier. Aircraft circle overhead, like hawks. Kremer lowers the periscope slowly. Der Ozean ist voll Feinde, he says quietly. The ocean is full of enemies. He orders his boat away. For once, survival matters more than victory. May has only begun. Already, dozens of U-boats have been lost. What the Germans will soon call Black May is unfolding day by day, patrol by patrol, grave by grave beneath the waves. And the worst is yet to come. May 11th, 1943, North Atlantic. Convoy ONS-5. The weather is savage. 40-knot winds, towering seas, sleet driven sideways like shrapnel. For days, the convoy has been scattered. Ships falling behind, columns dissolving into chaos. To a U-boat commander, this should be a gift. Inside U-boat U-266, Kapitänleutnant Robert Nixdorf braces himself against the pitching hull as the boat rises toward periscope depth. The ocean screams above them. The escorts are struggling. The convoy is vulnerable. Periscope hoch. Through the lens, the world appears in fragments. Freighters wallowing, smoke streaming from funnels. Destroyers fighting the seas as much as the enemy. Nixdorf calculates quickly. One attack, maybe two. He never gets the chance. Without warning, the hydrophone operator snaps upright. Mehrere Schrauben. Von allen Seiten, multiple propellers. From all sides. This is not a panicked reaction. This is a trap. Depth charges begin to fall. Not randomly, but in patterns. The first salvo is shallow, forcing the boat deeper. The next follows them down. The ocean seems to know exactly where U-266 is hiding. The hull groans. Rivets pop like rifle shots. The lights flicker and die. Then comes the sound every submariner fears. A direct hit. U-266 shudders violently, nose pitching downward. Water floods in uncontrollably. Nixdorf orders abandon ship, but the command is swallowed by chaos. Within minutes, the boat is gone. Above, the escorts log another kill. ONS-5 becomes a turning point. The convoy loses ships. Yes, but the cost to the U-boats is catastrophic. Over the course of the battle, 6 German submarines are destroyed. Others are damaged so badly they limp home, never to return to combat. For the first time, the exchange ratio favors the Allies decisively, and it is happening everywhere. At BDU headquarters, the loss board is a nightmare of chalk marks and red pins. Boats overdue, boats confirmed sunk, crews gone, thousands of trained men erased in weeks. Dönitz stares at the figures. In early May alone, more than 30 U-boats have been lost. Some days, 2. Some days, 3. The Admiral's faith in offensive spirit is colliding with mathematics. He knows what this means. Germany cannot replace crews fast enough. Training pipelines are already stretched. New boats roll out of shipyards. But a submarine without an experienced crew is a coffin. May 17th, 1943. Bay of Biscay. A formation of U-boats attempts to break out into the Atlantic under cover of darkness. It is a maneuver that worked dozens of times before. This time, Allied aircraft are waiting. Liberators appear from multiple directions. Radar-guided, coordinated, lee lights stab the night. Depth charges hammer the sea. U-boat U-640 is caught on the surface. Guns manned, trying to fight it out. A bomb strikes just aft of the conning tower. The explosion lifts the boat clear of the water before breaking her back. There are no survivors. Inside surviving boats. Morale fractures. Men whisper about being hunted like animals, about the ocean itself turning traitor. Veterans who once laughed through depth charge attacks now sit in silence, counting bolts, counting breaths. One sailor aboard U-230 writes in his diary, "We no longer attack, we flee." And still they find us. The technology gap is now overwhelming. Allied escort groups operate as hunter-killer teams, free from convoy duty, scouring the sea for contacts. Sonar is sharper. Crews are better trained. Commanders rotate off ships to teach hard-won lessons to newcomers. The Germans, by contrast, are reacting, always reacting. New devices are rushed into service. Radar detectors, decoys, snorkels. Too little, too late. May 24th, 1943, Paris. Karl Dönitz sits alone with the latest situation report. The room is silent except for the ticking of a clock. Shipping losses are down. U-boat losses are intolerable. For the first time since the war began, the Admiral admits, if only to himself, that the battle for the Atlantic cannot be won this way. He drafts the order slowly, deliberately. U-boats are to withdraw from the North Atlantic convoy routes. The words are bureaucratic. The meaning is devastating. It is an acknowledgement of defeat. When the signal goes out, it crackles into the headphones of crews still at sea. Aboard U-305, the radio operator looks up from the set, disbelief on his face. Herr Kaleun, BDU orders disengagement. Return to base. The captain says nothing for a long moment. Then he nods. Sehr gut, he says quietly. Very well. The engines turn. The boat slips away from the convoy lanes, back toward Europe. Behind them, the Atlantic belongs to the Allies. By the end of May 1943, 43 German U-boats have been destroyed. Thousands of submariners are dead. The once feared wolf packs have been shattered by steel, mathematics, and innovation. The German captains are not cowards. They are not incompetent. They are simply outmatched. And deep beneath the waves, the graves of Black May mark the moment the Atlantic War changed forever. June 2nd, 1943, Lorient, occupied France. A light rain falls over the concrete pens as U-boat U-758 eases into harbor. There is no band, no cheering dock workers, just a handful of officers with clipboards and a medical orderly waiting near the quay. Kapitänleutnant Johannes Edert steps ashore, boots echoing against wet stone. His crew follows in silence. They are thinner than when they left. Older? Somehow. Their eyes keep drifting toward the sea, as if expecting it to reach out and claim them even here. Across the base, entire berths stand empty. The war for the Atlantic has not ended, but something fundamental has broken. In Paris, BDU headquarters feels different now. The maps remain on the walls, but the pins have shifted. Patrol zones are defensive, cautious. Secondary theaters, off West Africa, in the Caribbean, are penciled in with little confidence. Dönitz addresses his staff with controlled restraint. "We will rebuild," he says. "We will wait for new weapons, new boats." What he does not say is that the initiative is gone. The Allies do not ease off. Escort carriers multiply across the Atlantic. USS Bogue, HMS Archer, USS Card. Floating airfields that erase the last safe spaces U-boats once relied upon, hunter-killer groups roam freely, no longer tethered to convoys. The ocean is no longer empty. July 13th, 1943, North Atlantic. Aboard USS Bogue, Ensign William Bill Carter leans over the rail. watching the wake fade into darkness, somewhere out there. Sonar has picked up a contact. His squadron is already warming engines. The young aviator knows the drill by heart. Radar search, visual confirmation, attack. No hesitation. When his Avenger torpedo bomber lifts off the deck, the carrier barely slows. There are always more planes to launch, more fuel, more trained men. Hours later, Carter will return to find a small chalk mark added beneath his squadron's board. Another U-boat gone. For the German submariners still at sea, the war becomes one of endurance rather than aggression. Boats remain submerged longer, using experimental snorkels that allow diesel operation underwater, devices that break down, that leave telltale wakes, that slow already compromised boats. Radar detectors whine constantly, false alarms fraying nerves. Every transmission feels like a risk. Every surface run feels suicidal. One veteran commander sums it up in a letter home. "We are blind." They see everything. Dönitz pushes for radical solutions. New designs, greater depths, faster boats. But the most promising answer, the Type WWII electroboot, will arrive too late. In 1943, it exists only on drafting tables and in arguments with engineers. The war moves faster than German industry can follow. September 1943, Berlin. Dönitz is summoned to meet Adolf Hitler. The conversation is tense. The Führer demands results, demands renewed offensives. Dönitz, carefully, refuses. The losses cannot be sustained, he says. The enemy's superiority in the air and at sea is overwhelming. It is a rare moment of candor. By the end of 1943, the statistics are merciless. Allied shipping losses have dropped dramatically. The supply lines to Britain and the Soviet Union are secure. The build-up for future invasions. Italy. Then France moves forward unhindered. The U-boat arm, once the spearhead of Germany's naval war, has been reduced to a shadow. And yet, for the men who served within those steel hulls, the memory of the hunt never fades. The silence after depth charges, the sweat and oil in the control room, the knowledge that the ocean above could turn lethal without warning. Black May is not just a defeat. It is a psychological rupture. The moment when German U-boat captains realized the Atlantic no longer feared them. Years later, survivors will struggle to explain how quickly it happened. How one spring turned the hunters into the hunted. How technology, coordination, and relentless pressure transformed the sea into a killing ground. And how, beneath the waves, an entire way of war was buried.